Today we're diving into a jaw-dropping theory. Could Zoro's swords be swapped out in the final chapter? Did you ever pick up on the patterns and rules behind all the swords Zoro has wielded over the years in One Piece? We're talking about swords like the Wado Ichimonji, the Kitetsu line, and the Yuba Sha'iri. There's a world of mystery behind these blades and a deep connection with the legendary Shinshin Gumi that will unravel in this video. If you find this theory mind-blowing, don't forget to hit that like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you've got your own theories, share them down below. We want to hear from you. Just a heads up, this video might spill some beans on the latest episode, so spoiler alert. The Wado Ichimonji, it's one of the 21 great grade blades. Originally, it belonged to Kuina, Zoro's old rival, and he continues to use it as a memento of her. You'd probably recognize it as the sword he holds in his mouth during his three-sword style. It was crafted by the Wano-born Kazaburo Shimotsuki, but have you ever thought it might be inspired by a real-life blade? This leads us to the Shinshin Gumi from the late Edo period. Okita Soji, a prominent member, wielded the Kiku Ichimonji Noramune. See the connection with the Ichimonji? Smells like an inspiration, doesn't it? Now, onto the Kitetsu line, notorious as cursed blades. These swords brought doom to every great swordsman who wore them. Zoro stumbled upon one in Logtown at Ipponmatsu's shop, picked it up for a mere 50,000 berries, all thanks to his gut feeling. The Sandai Kitetsu, crafted by Tenguyama Hitetsu of Wano County, is ranked as grade blades. Its predecessor, the Nadai Kitetsu, was a great grade blade forged by Hitetsu's ancestor, Kotetsu. And the original Kitetsu, or the Shodai Kitetsu, is considered a supreme grade blade, crafted by Kitetsu himself. Could the Kitetsu lineage be inspired by the Shinshin Gumi too? We know the famous sword Nagasone Kitetsu was used by Kondo Isami, the Shinshin Gumi's leader. With names and legacies like these, don't you think Luffy might end up with one of the earlier Kitetsu swords in hand? The sword, like the Sandai Kitetsu, was acquired by Zoro in Logtown. However, he obtained it through a test of luck. Impressed by Zoro's desire to see if the curse of the Kitetsu was stronger than his own luck, the shopkeeper Ipponmatsu gave him the Yuba Sha'iri, the finest sword in his shop, along with the Kitetsu. This sword is one of the 50 skillful grade blades, with a chaotic blade pattern and a black lacquered Tachi-style hilt. During the battle with Navy Captain Shu at Enies Lobby, the sword was severely damaged by the rust fruit's powers and was retired. It probably wasn't meant to last since it didn't have a connection to the Shinshin Gumi, but from what we can see, there's still a lingering connection with the Shinshin Gumi. It is one of the 21 great grade blades, named Shishui. He received it after winning a duel against Ryoma's zombie, into which Brook's shadow had been inserted, at Thriller Bark. However, Shishui was a divine blade in Wano, worshipped as the sword of the legendary samurai Ryoma, who was said to have slain a dragon with it. Therefore, in exchange for returning the Shishui, Zoro was given Enma, a blade once wielded by Kozuki Oden and later inherited by Kozuki Hiyori. The sword in Thriller Bark was one that Moria had stolen while grave robbing in Wano, taking Ryoma's corpse with it. Shisui also had no connection with the Shinshin Gumi's swords. Hiyori's legendary sword Enma, inherited from her father Oden, was the only blade said to have wounded Kaido. Its power is such that it can cut to the depths of hell, releasing the wielder's haki indiscriminately, and is so dangerous it can't be wielded by the weak. Mihawk once commented, "Any sword can become a black blade if enveloped in haki, but Enma is not yet a sword." However, when Zoro attacked Kaido in the latest chapter, he was using his haki to turn it into a black blade. Nevertheless, being Oden's blade and a keepsake inherited by Hiyori, it remains to be seen if Zoro will continue using it after the Wano arc. Since there's no connection with the Shinshin Gumi in this main topic, I wonder if Zoro's third sword being Enma is settled. The blade's creator was Kuzaburo Shimotsuki. Zoro, having encountered and used numerous swords, I wonder what will become his final third sword. In today's analysis, I believe he might be considering names from the swords favored by the Shinshin Gumi. Let me introduce some potential origins for that future third sword. To begin with, the Shinshin Gumi was an organization active towards the end of the Edo period, akin to the shogunate's police. The cherished swords used by its prominent members each have real historical episodes associated with them. Considering how Oda-sensei intricately crafts One Piece, I'm sure he's researched all these details. Kondo Isami's favorite sword was Kitetsu. Saido Hajimi's sword was Kishinmaru. Combining Kishinmaru and Kotetsu, I believe he might create Zoro's sword named Kishin Tetsu. Additionally, I believe there's another possibility. Okita Soji's sword was Kiku Ichimonji, and Hijikata Toshizo's was Izomunukami Kanaseda. Combining Kiku Ichimonji and Izuminokami, we can think of Wado Ichimonji, can't we? So, what about the last one? We might find commonalities from other Shinsengumi members. Serizawa Kamo's sword was Bingo Mihara Mori Masayasu. Nagakura Shinpachi's was Bonshu Ju Tegurayama Shitsugu, and another of Okita Soji's swords was Kashu Kiyomitsu. From these names, a sword might emerge, potentially becoming Zoro's third sword. I'd be delighted if you could share your insights and comments based on this.
Roro Noa Zoro undeniably is a pivotal character in the world of One Piece. With his signature green hair and a back unmod by any sword wounds, Zoro, the man who aspires to be the world's greatest swordsman, has faced numerous life-or-death battles since his introduction. It wouldn't be an overstatement to call him the number 2 of the Straw Hat crew, right? Now, speaking of Zoro, what's his weapon of choice? You've guessed it, swords. In this video, we're going to compile a comprehensive list of all the legendary swords that Zoro has wielded over the years. We're also going to sprinkle in some fun trivia that you might have missed, so you will want to reread this scene in the manga. Before we dive into the main topic, let's clarify what we mean by legendary swords. In this video, we'll be focusing on swords classified as Meito or above. Just a refresher, in the world of One Piece, there's a 5-tier ranking system for swords known as grades. From top to bottom, these are the 12 supreme grade swords, 21 great grade swords, 50 skillful grade swords, with the rest falling into the generic category. As a side note, this grading system actually exists in the real world too, with almost the same ranking tiers. These tie-ins between real world and in-story settings are a well-known storytelling technique that Eiichiro Oda, well-versed in history, loves. Alright, let's kick things off with the first sword. When we think of Zoro's trusted weapons, the name Wado Ichimonji certainly springs to mind. The Wado Ichimonji, a great grade sword, was created by the Wano swordsmith Shimotsuki Kozaburo. One might assume that Zoro was simply lucky to start off with one of the mere 21 precious swords in the world. But the story of how he came into possession of the Wado Ichimonji is anything but simple, right? Just in case some of you have forgotten, let's take a quick trip down memory lane. The story dates back to Zoro's childhood. The original owner of the Wado Ichimonji was a girl named Kuina. Kuina was the only daughter of Koshiro, the master of the Isshin Dojo where Zoro trained, and was his childhood friend. As a female swordsman, Kuina dreamt of becoming the world's greatest swordsman, and her skills were so impressive that even Zoro, who was prodigiously gifted, couldn't beat her. The fact that Zoro didn't win means she had a promising future, right? Tragically, Kuina died in an unfortunate accident before she could realize her dream. Zoro inherited Wado Ichimonji as a memento, and at the same time, he inherited her unfulfilled dream. With this sword in hand, he vowed to become the world's greatest swordsman, a name that would echo all the way up to Kuina in heaven. The Wado Ichimonji, obtained under such circumstances, is the only sword that Zoro has consistently used from his debut to the present. For Zoro, it's not just an important sword that embodies his promise, but it's also the sword that will accompany him in his growth toward becoming the world's greatest swordsman. The next legendary sword we'll be looking at is the Sundai Kadetsu, the first cursed sword to appear in One Piece. The Sundai Kadetsu, a grade sword, was forged by the Wano swordsmith Tenguyama Hitetsu, who Zoro has directly encountered in Wano country. The Sundai Kadetsu, aptly known as a cursed sword, is said to cause mysterious deaths one after another when it is owned. I would not touch it, no matter how legendary it is, because it's so horrible to be condemned to death just for having it. But why did Zoro end up getting his hands on such a sword? Let's rewind a bit to shortly before Zoro acquires the Sundai Kadetsu. Soon after becoming part of Luffy's crew and embarking on their journey to find new crewmates, Zoro unexpectedly came across a man known the world over as the world's greatest swordsman, the man called Hawkeye's Mihawk. Zoro challenged Mihawk to a duel. Unfortunately, the gap in strength between them was too great, and Zoro was completely defeated by Mihawk with nothing to do The famous scene that left his famous quote, "Scars on the back are disgrace to a swordsman." What's more, in this intense battle, Zoro's swords, other than the Wado Ichimonji, are shattered. Zoro, who could no longer call himself a three-sword style fighter, stopped by a weapons shop during a visit to Rogue Town, the birthplace of the Pirate King. Recommended by Navy officer Tashigi, who happened to be there, Zoro picked the Sun Daikatetsu from a pile of discarded weapons. Intriguingly, before the shopkeeper, Ipinmatsu could explain that it was a cursed sword, Zoro sensed the sword's aura and realized its nature. Then he said, "I like it. I'll take this one." Ignoring Ipinmatsu's warning about the curse, Zoro drew the sword and threw it in the air, spinning it around. He stuck his own arm out at the drop and made a crazy bet as to whether or not the sword would cut off his arm. It's a dangerous gamble that could also end his life as a swordsman. Yet, mysteriously, the Sun Daikatetsu avoided his arm and stuck to the ground. With a simple "I'll take it," Zoro acquires the sword. Having witnessed such an event, Ipinmatsu gave Zoro not only the Sun Daikatetsu, but also his store's treasure, the skillful grade sword Yubashiri, free of charge. This Yubashiri happens to be Zoro's third legendary sword. Yubashiri has a black lacquer sheath, a wild blade pattern, and a small cross-shaped guard. Although its creator is not mentioned in the story, it's a notable sword with such a light weight that even Zoro is surprised, enabling rapid, repeated slashes. In this way, Zoro simultaneously acquired two precious swords and can call himself a three-sword style swordsman once more. Let's spice things up with two fun facts about Ipinmatsu. First off, Ipinmatsu was quite smitten with Zoro's bravery. In the front illustration for episode 630 of New World Arc, he is shown putting up a poster of an enlarged photo of Zoro's arrangement in his bathroom. Secondly, a speculation rather than a fact, but his peculiar hairstyle and uniquely Japanese name suggest a resemblance to a crane, which coincidentally matches the family crest of the Kazuki family. Could this suggest some connection with Wano? The second and third swords were introduced together, so the fourth famous sword is next. Next on the list is the Black Blade Shusui. It shares the great grade sword ranking with the Wado Ichimonji. The creator of the Shusui remains unknown, but this sword, forged in Wano country, is referred to as a national treasure and is exceedingly precious. That Zoro got his hands on a national treasure is pretty impressive, huh? Shusui is quite heavy and packs a hefty offensive and defensive punch. However, due to its tremendous power, it's hard to handle and could cut far more than intended if not wielded carefully. And the key feature of Shusui is its exceptional hardness. It's said that even a dinosaur's stomp wouldn't bend it a millimeter. So, how did Zoro acquire the Shusui? We have moved on from previous topics for a moment, but do you all remember when the Straw Hat crew conducted the Robin recapture operation in Eni's lobby? You might remember this as the time when the Straw Hats made enemies with the world government. During the intense battle, Yubashiri was corroded to rust due to the ability of the Navy's Captain Shu and his Rust Trust fruit. Having successfully rescued Robin, the Straw Hats then arrive at Thriller Bark, where they engaged in a fierce battle with the 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Moria. Zoro was to go one-on-one with Ryuma, a master swordsman from Wano country who had been revived by Moria's ability and who was wielding the Black Blade Shusui. Why were the national treasure of Wano country and the dead body of Ryuma in Thriller Bark? That's because Moria, who was using his Shadow Fruit ability to create a powerful zombie army, stole his corpse in Shusui. After an intense duel, Zoro emerged victorious against Ryuma and was given the Shusui. The only black blades appearing in One Piece are Mihawk's supreme grade sword, Yuru, and this Shusui. So it stands to reason that Shusui is an extremely powerful and valuable sword, potentially on par with Yuru. Let's take a moment to explain more about black blades. One key thing to note is that these swords are not initially created as black blades. Mihawk explained to Zoro during their training that any blade can become a black blade if it is imbued with haki. Moreover, in Wano country, Gyukimaru revealed that Shusui became a black blade after many battles. And Tengiyama Hitetsu commented, when a blade becomes black, its rank increases. Therefore, it's also possible that Mihawk's Yoru became a black blade through many battles. There are still many mysteries surrounding Mihawk, so we hope future story developments will shed light on how Yoru became a black blade. Finally, we arrive at the last sword, Enma. This blade shares the great grade sword rank and was created by the same person as the Wado Ichimonji Shimotsuki Kozaburo. The fact that Zoro ended up with 2 swords made by Kozaburo feels like a twist of fate, doesn't it? The previous owner of Enma is Kazuki Oden, the most important character in the Wano Country arc. Its special characteristic is its ability to forcibly extract and overload its wielders' haki, enhancing their attack power. It seems Oden was the only one in Wano Country who was able to control Enma. When Zoro first got Enma and tried a test cut on a nearby tree, the sword ended up slashing right through the ground. The excessive discharge of haki made him difficult to breathe, and his arms shriveled up like a mummy, but Zoro returned to normal with his single word, return. Please be aware that this feature is often misunderstood as a curse. How did Zoro acquire Enma? This time, it wasn't due to another sword being broken. When the Straw Hats arrived in Wano Country, which was under the control of Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, Zoro was accused by the samurai of stealing Shusui, a national treasure of them. The misunderstanding was somehow cleared up, but since Shusui was the sacred sword of Wano Country, he asked that it be returned by all means, and this Enma was offered to him as a replacement sword. Kenaman, who was with him, warned him against taking it out of goodwill, and Tenguyama Hitetsu even offered to replace it with another sword. However, Zoro seemed to be intrigued by Enma's properties, saying, "By the time I get used to Enma, I'll be even stronger," and began his training. He is indeed the man aiming to be the world's greatest swordsman. According to Tenguyama Hitetsu, who looked after Enma, its rank could rise if it turns into a black blade under Zoro. So, there's the exciting possibility that Enma could become a black blade in Zoro's hands. As a side note, Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the creator of Enma, described the sword as the best work in my life, and its spirit is doggedly serious. The power to forcibly extract excessive haki is simply Enma fulfilling its duty as a sword with the utmost seriousness. During Zoro's fierce battle with King in Wano Country in Volume 102, Enma started to drew out excessive haki against Zoro's will and unleashed its power. At that moment, Zoro recalled a confession Kozaburo had once told him. If Enma goes into an unleashed state on its own, it's due to its temperament and personality. Zoro realized that his inability to handle Enma was due to his own immaturity, so he let Enma draw his haki and fought in an unleashed state. This led to a scene that suggested that Enma had awakened the Conqueror's haki lying dormant within Zoro. That's all for Zoro's historic swords. Looking back at the stories of each sword, we can appreciate even more the depth of One Piece. Finally, let's discuss a potential foreshadowing. Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the maker of Wado Ichimonji and Enma, was revealed in Volume 96 SSBS to be the founder of Shimotsuki Village, Zoro's birthplace, and the father of Koshiro, Zoro's master. Isn't this hinting at a connection between Zoro and Wano Country? Aside from the main story, the 2004 movie The Cursed Holy Sword features a story centered around Zoro. There are precious scenes from his childhood, so if you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out on Netflix or DVD. What is the most moving story you have read regarding Zoro? Please let us know in the comments. We will continue to discuss various information and foreshadowing about One Piece. So please give us a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe to our channel.
Today, we're diving deep, unpacking the stories behind the swords wielded by swordsmen like Zoro and others. Now, when we talk ranks in the world of One Piece, we're discussing a critical aspect, the grade of a sword. Throughout the story, there's a myriad of legendary blades that have made their mark, each with its own set of tales to tell. If what I'm about to share gets you as excited as I am, hit that like button and drop a comment. Oh, and if I missed out on an episode that's close to your heart, let me know in the comments. I've got your back. Now, let's unravel the stories behind these epic blades. By the way, a quick heads up. This video has spoilers up to the latest episodes, so be warned. Without further ado, let's dive right in. First, let's break down this ranking system real quick. In the One Piece world, swords have a 5-tier grading system. From top to bottom, they are Supreme Grade Blades, Great Grade Blades, Skillful Grade Blades, Grade Blades, and the Regular Blades. Fun fact, Our history buff, Oda Sensei, took inspiration from the real-world concept of sword ranking, but he added his own twist. In One Piece, each sword is individually ranked. This means that multiple swords made by the same craftsman can be included. In reality, it's the swordsmen themselves who get ranked. Also, while One Piece has 12 Supreme Grade Blades swords, the real-world reference, the Treasured Sword Size First Edition, originally had 12, but added 3 more in its revised edition. The number of masterwork swords is not mentioned in the story. While they are somewhat stronger than ordinary swords, they seem to lack something compared to higher ranked ones. There are some masterwork swords with legends attached that possess immense power, so there can be hits and misses among them. By the way, there are 2 masterwork swords that appear in the story. The first one is Sandai Katetsu. Its owner is Rorona Zoro of the Straw Hat Crew. The creator of this sword is Tengu Yama Hitetsu, a blacksmith residing in Wano, introduced in chapter 995. This blade, known as Sandai Katetsu, is a cursed sword believed to bring a tragic death to its owner. Normally, one would say, I don't want a cursed blade like that. But Zoro felt differently. Rather, after hearing the story, he said he liked it. He truly aims to be the world's greatest swordsman. The second masterwork is Shigu Rei. Its owner was the Navy's chief petty officer, Tashigi, at the time. The creator of this sword is unknown, but it is characterized by a white sheath adorned with a double circle pattern. Tashigi has had Shigure since her first appearance and aims to collect renowned swords that have fallen into the hands of villains from all over the world. There are 50 skillful grade blades which, while not reaching the strength of great masterworks, boast strength deserving of the title Renowned Blade. 2 of them appear in the story, but another one also appears in a novel. The first skillful grade blade is Kashu. Its owner is Navy officer Tashigi. Back when Tashigi was a chief petty officer, it was in the possession of Mr. 11 of the secret criminal organization Baroque Works, founded by Crocodile. After apprehending Mr. 11, Tashigi obtained the Kashu. By the way, between Shigure and Kashu, the latter is of higher rank. However, Tashigi continues to use Shigure as her main blade. The second skillful grade blade is Yamaroshi. Its owner is Tashigi. In the novel, Yamaroshi was acquired by Tashigi in Log Town, where Zoro obtained Sandai Katetsu. It has yet to appear in the main storyline, so it cannot be considered official, but it's worth mentioning. The third skillful grade blade is Yubashiri. Its owner is Roranoa Zoro. After hearing from the weapon shop owner that the Sandai Katetsu was a cursed blade, Zoro unsheathed it and threw it into the air while spinning it. Incredibly, as the sword was descending, he thrust out his arm, taking a risky bet to see if the blade would cut him or not. Impressed by Zoro's courage, Ippon Matsu, the weapon shop owner, gave him Yubashiri, a family heirloom, for free. It was a moment when one man entrusted his dream to another. Zoro commented that Yubashiri is a light and good quality blade. However, during the Enies Lobby arc, it was rendered useless by the rust ability of Navy Colonel Shu. Later, it was laid to rest on Thriller Bark along with the swords of Brook's comrades. Next, let's discuss the Great Grade Blades. There are 21 of these swords, with 5 of them appearing in the story. Each one is said to be worth no less than 10 million berries, with some even considered national treasures. Given that 1 berry is roughly equivalent to 1 yen, this means each sword is worth over 10 million yen. What would that be in dollars? The first grade blades is the Wado Ichimonji. Its owner is Roranoa Zoro. This sword was crafted by Shimatsuki Kushiro. Wado Ichimonji is the blade that Zoro has continuously used since his debut. It's the white-hilted sword he holds in his mouth when practicing his three-sword style. He uses it even in his single-sword style. The original owner of Wado Ichimonji was Kuina, Zoro's childhood friend who unfortunately passed away in an accident. Zoro, inheriting her will, received the sword and continues to cherish it. The second great grade blades is the Shusui. Its owner too is Roronoa Zoro. Shusui is one of only 2 black blades featured in the story. In Wano country, it's revered as a heroic sword and is treated as a divine blade. The original owner of Shusui was Wano country's hero, Ryuma, who upon dying of illness had the Shusui buried alongside him. However, Warlord of the Sea Gecko Moria, in his quest to amass powerful zombies, took Ryuma's corpse and the Shusui to Thriller Bark. In Thriller Bark, the zombified Ryuma-wielding Shusui was defeated by Zoro, who then received the sword. The third great grade blades is Inma. Its owner is Roronoa Zoro. This blade was also crafted by Shimatsuki Kushiro. Originally, Inma was owned by Kozuki Oden, who brought peace to the lawless region of Kuri in Wano. After Oden's death, it was meant to be inherited by his daughter Hiyori, and was in the care of Tenguyama Hitetsu. However, as Zoro possessed the national treasure of Wano, Shusui, he exchanged it for Inma. Inma has a unique characteristic. It forcibly and excessively draws out the user's haki and imbues it into its attacks, making it extremely difficult to control. Though it appears cursed at first glance, it's merely fulfilling its duty as a sword. Interestingly, Inma is the only blade known to have injured the strongest creature, Kaido. The fourth great grade blades is the Ame no Habakiri. This blade, like Inma, was stored by Tenguyama Hitetsu, who also crafted it. Tenguyama Hitetsu himself considers it his masterpiece, and it was originally the favored sword of Kozuki Oden, said to be able to cut even the heavens. After Oden's death, it's meant to be passed on to his son, Momonosuke. The fifth great grade blades is the Nidai Kitetsu. It's in Tenguyama Hitetsu's possession, but has no current owner. The sword's maker is revealed to be Kotizu, an ancestor of Tenguyama Hitetsu. Being a Kitetsu blade, it's regarded as a cursed blade, but it's described only as a famous blade known around the world. During the Wano arc, even a sword novice like Luffy demonstrated its immense power, capable of slicing through multiple opponents. Interestingly, after being defeated by Kaido while possessing this blade, it went missing for a while. However, it was retrieved by Okiku when Luffy and the others took over the Udon prisoner mines and was returned to Tenguyama Hitetsu. Within the superior class of blades, there are 12, known as the Supreme Grade Blades. Among all the swords in the series, these 12 are considered the most prestigious. Most of them are wielded by powerhouses like the 7 Warlords of the Sea. Only 4 of them are named in the series. The first Supreme Grade Blades is named Yoru. Its owner is one of the 7 Warlords, known as the world's strongest swordsman, Hawkeye's Dracul Mihawk. The massive blade, when worn on his back, resembles a huge cross. This sword is one of the few black blades introduced in the series. Mihawk only draws Yoru against opponents he deems truly worthy. He calls fighting with Yoru a swordsman's courtesy, and its sheer power can easily slice through even giant icebergs. Interestingly, in the original series, Yoru is only referred to as a black blade. Its official name and specifications were revealed in fan books and the anime adaptation. The second Supreme Grade Blades is named Mura Kumogiri. It's the Basento used by Whitebeard Edward Newgate. With his power of the Tremor fruit, Whitebeard could effortlessly handle volcanic rocks launched by Admiral Akainu's Great Eruption. After Whitebeard's demise during the Paramount War, his body was taken by Shanks, and given a proper burial in Whitebeard's homeland alongside his sons, including Ace. Whitebeard's beloved by Sento, Mura Kumogiri, now marks his grave. Its rank was confirmed in the SBS of Volume 93. The third Supreme Grade Blades is named Ace. It was the cherished sword of the pirate Gol D. Roger. Yes, you heard it right. Fire Fist Ace. The details about the sword named Ace have not been depicted in the main storyline, but were revealed in the One Piece official Vivre Card fanbook. Unfortunately, Roger's combat scenes wielding the Ace sword are rarely illustrated. Given that it belonged to the Pirate King, it must surely possess power authority of a Supreme Grade Blades. Its current whereabouts and owner remain unknown. The fourth Supreme Grade Blades is the Shodai Katetsu. Although its owner is uncertain, a popular theory among fans is that it's possessed by the Five Elders member in the kimono. The details aren't revealed yet, but given that it's a Katetsu lineage blade, it's presumed to boast immense demonic power. Its existence was first hinted at when Tashigi mentioned it in Logu Town's weapon shop, after Zoro obtained the third generation Katetsu. If indeed it is with one of the Five Elders, a showdown with Zoro seems inevitable. These were the known ranked swords, but I'd also like to touch upon the potential of other swords rising in ranks. Let's recall two scenes. Any blade can become a black blade if imbued with haki, as stated by Mihawk while training Zoro. Furthermore, Tengu-yama Hitetsu remarked, "Enma hasn't become a black blade yet. Depending on you, its rank can also rise." This suggests the high possibility of Zoro's Enma transforming into a black blade and hence a Supreme Grade Blades. It's an unfolding fans eagerly await. By the way, there are other swords like Shanks Griffin whose rank is unknown, and there are blades like Dark King Rayleigh's whose names haven't even been mentioned. We can expect more revelations in the main series, SBS, fanbooks, and more. Which sword piques your interest the most? Alright guys, today we're diving deep into the mysteries surrounding Zoro's birth and his deep connection to the Shimotsuki family in One Piece. Recently, the fanbase has been rocked with the unveiling of new details regarding Zoro's lineage in the SBS section of Volume 105. Moreover, during the Wano Country arc, it's emphasized that Zoro has a special background, being linked to the lineage of a Wano Country's noble family, and its significance is being unveiled. Today, we're going to bundle up the long-discussed tales about Zoro's birth and his connection to the Shimotsuki family, presenting you with some fresh insights. If the theories discussed in this video resonate with you, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And for those of you with new theories or perspectives, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Be cautious while watching, as this video contains spoilers up to the most recent episodes. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. In the narrative, the earliest discussion surrounding Zoro's life occurred in Volume 1, Episode 5. Here, the story of Zoro and his best friend Kuina was depicted for the first time. Kuina is the beloved daughter of Koshiro, the master of the Isshin Dojo. Young Zoro also attended, and the two were childhood friends who always honed their skills at the dojo. Kuina was older than Zoro and was exceedingly strong. Zoro always ended up losing. Zoro fought using a two-sword style since those times, but he always lost, leading to moments where he shed tears of frustration. However, Kuina once confided in Zoro about her concerns of being a female, that there would be gender disparities as they grew up, and that she might lose someday, making her dream of becoming a sword master unattainable. Zoro encouraged her by saying, "One day, either you or I will definitely become the world's greatest sword master. Let's compete to see who can achieve it." But one day, Kuina died in a tragic accident, falling down the stairs. Following Kuina's death, Zoro made a vow to become the world's greatest sword master. He then adopted Kuina's sword, the Wado Ichimonji, and began to pursue the path of the greatest sword master using a three-sword style. and the same chronological story was depicted in Volume 102, Episode 1033. 13 years ago, narration introduced East Blue, the home village of Zoro named Shimotsuki, and Kozaburo Shimotsuki appeared as the village's old man. Zoro remembered the old man from the village he interacted with without knowing his name when he was a child, realizing that the individual was the swordsmith Kozaburo Shimotsuki. The three swords Zoro used in the battle in Wano, Wado Ichimonji, Sandai, Ketetsu, and Enma all originated from Wano and were connected to the Shimotsuki family. This was the first major depiction of Shimotsuki village in two parts in the main narrative. Next, we will discuss including the SBS sections. Undoubtedly, the story of the Shimotsuki family in Volume 96 was the turning point that significantly ignited the questions about Zoro's origins. In the Wano Country arc, the lineage of the great daimyo family, the Shimotsuki, made an appearance. Here, Mr. Oda answered a question about whether there is a relationship between Zoro's hometown, East Blue, Shimotsuki village, and Koshiro. That illustrated diagram has been cited many times already, hasn't it? Kozaburo Shimotsuki created Enma and presented it to Oden, the heir to the Kozuki family, another great daimyo family. He illegally left Wano Country 55 years ago and ventured out to sea. After embarking on a great adventure in the New World, he landed in a place in the East Blue. He saved the people from bandits in that land, and while teaching swordsmanship in that village, he fell in love and decided to settle down, thus establishing Shimotsuki village. As a result, Koshiro was born as Kozaburo's son, and Kuina was born as his granddaughter, which we all came to understand. At this point, there was no mention of Zoro yet, and the explanation only covered how Shimotsuki village was established. Only the relationship between Kozaburo and Kushiro was mentioned, with a slight hint about Zoro's lineage. Hinting only, without concrete details. Then comes the SBS in Volume 101. Here, there was a question about the real name of a certain character who appeared in Yamoto's past story. And since this person resembled Zoro, could he possibly be Zoro's father? In response, it was clearly stated that his real name is Shimotsuki Ishimaru, and that he is not Zoro's father. Additionally, it was noted that I'm still undecided whether to illustrate Ushimaru's lineage or keep it hidden, so I'll hold off on that. They do look alike, don't they? Moreover, in episodes 1023 and 1024 of the same volume 101, his story is heavily featured. First, the conversation between Hyogoro and Kawamutsu in episode 1023 after seeing Zoro. He was supposed to be a pirate from overseas. It's strange. He bears a striking resemblance to the young daimyo Shimotsuki Ushimaru of Ringo. Indeed, even his swordmanship is the same. Ushimaru was a great swordsman and a descendant of the sword god Shimotsuki Ryuma. It feels like fate that he returned to the Shusui, to Wano Country. Even the fact that Ryuma was a one-eyed samurai. The two strongly felt Ushimaru's resemblance in Zoro, even finding similarities with Ryuma. In the following episode 1024, Ushimaru himself appears, depicting that he was imprisoned with young Yamato at a place called Sacred Cave. In order to connect Oden's logbook, which Yamato had, to the future, they broke out of prison, challenged Kaido, and were defeated. The readers were getting anxious as the real identity remained unknown. However, in Volume 101, SBS, Oda-san, who had been hesitating whether to reveal or conceal Ushimaru's lineage, has made a decision. In Volume 105, SBS, regarding the section that received numerous questions, what is Zoro's lineage in the end? He announced, I think it won't be explained in the main story anymore, so I will reveal it, and explained it with a family tree included. There was a title called Zoro's Family Tree, and below it, a family tree starting from Kozaburo was listed in full view. Shimotsuki Kozaburo created two famous swords, Wado Ichimonji and Yamaroshi, and presented the latter to Oden when he was 4 years old. This was 55 years ago. Then, 3 years after illegally leaving Wano country, 52 years ago, he settled in East Blue and established Shimotsuki village. Shimotsuki Kushiru was born to a daughter of the village. Shimotsuki Kuina was born between Shimotsuki Koshiro and a certain woman. Then there's Shimotsuki Furiko, who left Wano country along with Shimotsuki Kozaburo. This person is Ushimura's older sister. She started living in Shimotsuki village too, becoming the spouse of Zoro's grandfather, Roronoa Pinzoro, and gave birth to a son named Roronoa Arashi. This Arashi is Zoro's father. Furthermore, a person named Tira, a thief's daughter, is Zoro's mother. Roronoa Zoro was born between these two. Everything connected all at once, didn't it? Ushimura is not Zoro's father. However, they resemble each other, so much so that they seem to have a clear blood relationship. The answer is because Zoro is the grandson of Ushimura's sister. About 1/4 of Zoro's blood is from the Shimotsuki family. Furthermore, he also answered the question, why is the name Roronoa, even though he was born and raised in Shimotsuki village, created by Shimotsuki Kozaburo? Regarding the matter of not having the Shimotsuki surname, it was because the father's surname was inherited at the parents' stage. Ace, Luffy's brother, was born between Gold D. Roger and Portgas D. Rouge and could claim either surname. However, he decided to go by the surname Portgas out of gratitude to his mother, hiding the surname Gol from Roger's side. Similarly, Zoro's father, Arashi, was a child born between the Roronoa and Shimotsuki families, and decided to take the surname Roronoa, or was named so. This erased the existence of Shimotsuki on the surface, and furthermore, a woman named Tira, a thief's daughter, unrelated to either the Roronoa or Shimotsuki families, appeared. Due to this, there was no longer a reason to name Zoro Shimotsuki Zoro. Kozaburo, on the other hand, had passed down the Shimotsuki surname to his son Kushiro, and it was clearly stated that his daughter, Kuina, also inherited the Shimotsuki surname. This means both Zoro and Kuina are in the Shimotsuki family lineage. In other words, they are very distant relatives. It is not clear whether Kozaburo and Ushimura and Kozaburo and Furiko are located on the same family tree. However, since they are claiming to be Shimotsuki, if you trace upwards, you'll reach the same ancestors. That is another major point of discussion this time. Up until now, the discussion has mainly revolved around Zoro's birth story. From here on, it involves the entire Shimotsuki family. Let's look at the section in Volume 105 SBS. On the ship that left Wano country, Ushimura Shimotsuki, who met Yamato during his childhood, was the brother of Fubuki Shimotsuki. He is a descendant of Ryuma Shimotsuki, the legendary samurai of Wano, whom Zoro met in Thriller Bark and was a former lord of Ringo. Therefore, it was a mysterious story of fate that even Zoro himself did not know, as it turned out. Yes, now we must talk about the connection between Ryuma, Shimotsuki, and Zoro. Zoro's encounter with Ryuma happened in the first half of the Grand Line at Thriller Bark. In Volume 48, Chapter 467, the two fought. So, why was Ryuma in Thriller Bark? 23 years ago, Gecko Moria, who was a rival of Kaido, caused a grave robbing incident in Wano and stole Ryuma's corpse and Shusui, a sword. The corpse of Ryuma was turned into a general zombie by inserting the shadow stolen from Brook by the power of the Shadow Fruit. Therefore, Ryuma's soul was no longer there, and only his body and beloved sword were resurrected in modern times. The strength of the zombie created by Moria's ability depends on the physical strength of the vessel multiplied by the combat ability of the original owner of the shadow. Therefore, when considering the combat abilities of Brook and Ryuma, it is believed that Ryuma was not fully replicated at his original strength. However, During the fight, Zoro feels it seems like the sword will break if this drags on. The body and spirit that supported the strength of the legendary swordsman are indeed real. It seems that there is still a formidable power emanating even from a real body without a soul. And then Zoro wins this fight and inherits Shusui from Ryuma. Even though it was without the individual's intention, it feels like the sword has been entrusted from ancestor to descendant over hundreds of years, and there are many parts to reappreciate. The common points between Zoro and Ryuma. In Volume 101, Chapter 1023, Kawamatsu mentions that he was a one-eyed samurai, and in Volume 48, Chapter 467, Brook analyzes this. The samurai zombie is moving with my shadow now, but probably was a samurai of great sword in his lifetime. Those two might possibly have the same type of muscular strength as swordsmen. It makes a lot of sense. Zoro was gradually awakening the power of the great swordsman blood that was certainly mixed in, albeit diluted. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that there was a hint that the two were of the same bloodline from the time Brook felt they were of the same type. After receiving Shusui, Zoro says, "I'll take the sword, but let's pretend this match never happened. Samurai of Wano." He didn't hear that Ryuma was from Wano, but he probably realized it from the distinctive clothing and hairstyle. Or perhaps he had heard stories about samurai from Kozaburo and Kushiru in Shimotsuki village. Here, such a point might be raised. So, in the end, it's the power of blood, right? Ace is the son of Roger. Luffy is the descendant of the top of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon, and the naval hero Garp. Is everything including strength determined by blood? You might say that. However, I think it's fine that the legendary samurai, Ryuma, has been added as a complementary element to Zoro, a main member and popular character. Zoro has been fleshed out properly, and we would be in trouble if he does not become stronger. But the reason Zoro has become this strong is not simply because he has a high concentration of Shimotsuki blood, right? Be it Shimotsuki or Roronoa, genetic factors are not everything when it comes to Zoro's strength. Rather, what has made him so resilient is his own training. Zoro has continued to hurt his body by being more stoic and strict with himself than anyone else. He rejects King's claim that you can't beat me as a living being by saying, "I hate that kind of excuse the most." And it's Zoro who has carved out a path with the skill of the sword polished through his own training, isn't it? Zoro, who carries Shimotsuki blood, and Zoro as part of the Roronoa lineage. It's not that, but Zoro, who has been persevering all this time, losing both his parents and a dear friend. Because of that, even when the talk of lineage and blood comes in, Zoro himself does not falter, and it only makes him shine more brightly. And then there's the matter of personal aptitude. In the battle with Kaido, there was a depiction of Zoro awakening the Conqueror's haki. However, this awareness has not yet sprouted within him, and he seems to be using it unconsciously. In terms of the aspect of the Conqueror's haki aptitude, the possibility that it is linked to the Shimotsuki bloodline seems quite high. But, as I keep repeating, whether or not he can cultivate this aptitude depends largely on Zoro's personal training. Like Ace, who strongly inherited the blood of a powerful person, it might be possible to awaken it from a young age. However, it was essential for Zoro to undergo his previous training in order to fully unleash his haki. So, on one of the factors drawing out this Conqueror's haki, and an even stronger armament haki, could be the swords, don't you think? In Volume 11, Episode 97, when Zoro gets the Sandai Katetsu, he says, "Let's see which is stronger, my luck or the curse of Sandai Katetsu," risking one arm to take the Katetsu. In Volume 12, Episode 108, during the battle at Whiskey Peak, he refers to it as a troublemaker, treating it like a needy child. In Volume 50, Episode 489, Zoro carefully honors Yubashiri, which was severely damaged by the powers of Colonel Shu's rust fruit at Ini's lobby. This depicts Zoro dealing with the sword with sincerity, detailed moments interwoven carefully. In Volume 49, Episode 473, shortly after getting Shusui, he tested in the battle against Oars, and the story of Zoro and the swords continues to be detailed. This leads to the encounter with Enma, a sword forged by Kozaburo Shimotsuki. The Wado Ichimonji, too, is a sword that Zoro has been using since childhood, and Sendai Katetsu and Shusui both originated from Wano country as well. And Zoro is within the lineage of the Shimotsuki. There's this expression, this sensation of tools becoming a part of the body, assimilating with the body. However, Zoro has been in such an environment without intending to, laying the groundwork to master using Enma. Normally, except for Oden, those who used Enma would have their haki drained one-sidedly and exhaust quickly. One must possess overwhelming haki, and mastering it was considered difficult. But Zoro felt a sense of harmony the moment he grasped it. This is because he had been continuously using the Wado Ichimonji, Sendai Katetsu, and Shusui until then. In addition to this, the reason Zoro could withstand the release of Enma's haki is probably because he consistently continued his strength training and forging. And particularly in the case of Shusui, like Enma hosting Oden's haki, it seems to retain Ryuma's haki, or something close to it. I think this has been helping in drawing out Zoro's power to some extent. Probably each sword has such characteristics, and great swordsmen who leave their mark on history are born through the synergistic effect of the user's power and the power of the sword. More than blood relations, through the tangible power of a certain sword, I think Zoro is becoming an entity surpassing Ryuma, the legend he left of dragon slaying. This is somewhat achieved through slaying the dragon at Punk Hazard and cutting down Kaido, a user of the fish fruit in Wano. However, Zoro has not yet achieved the feat of producing a black blade as a swordsman. Shusui was a black blade, but it was only Zoro using what Ryuma turned into a black blade. Continuously using a sword before becoming a black blade and transforming it into a black blade. I think when this is achieved, Zoro's power as a swordsman will finally be on par with Ryuma and Mihawk. To cause this, of course, Zoro's personal stoicism is necessary, and the lineage will play a role like training wheels. Both birth and upbringing are essential. Not only Zoro, but other characters are also steadily climbing to greater heights. Therefore, I think that considering this story when witnessing Zoro's growth allows you to perceive something deeper. So this time, we've thoroughly investigated Zoro's birth and the Shimotsuki family. But how was it, everyone?
Today we're diving into Zoro's destiny in Wano country, the hidden plots surrounding him and the secrets behind the scenes. Zoro's actions in Wano, the mysterious medicine he took from the Mink tribe, and the enigmatic appearance of the Death God have been hot topics among fans. Especially Zoro's situation in Chapter 1040 and his connection with this Death God might play a significant role in the upcoming storylines. I want to delve deeper into these mysteries and share some insights with you all. If you agree with the theories I'm about to present, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And if there's something I missed, or if you've got a different take, let me know in the comments below. Please note, this video contains spoilers up to Chapter 1067. Alright, let's jump in. First, let's get a grasp on the situation. In Chapter 1022, Zoro was revived with the Mink tribe's medicine and managed to defeat King. Then in 1038, something that looked like the Death God appeared and swung his scythe widely, and furthermore, the scene changed at the moment Zoro's body did not move. In Chapter 1040, Zoro was seen lying down, presumably after an encounter with his Death God, with blood scattered around him. Then the scene changed again when the bottom of the rock collapsed and he fell down. One clear fact we got is that this Death God isn't Brook. Obviously, in chapter 1040, Brook was depicted running around the arena with Robin. Thus, it's clear that the death god confronting Zoro isn't Brook. This raises the question, who will rescue the fallen Zoro? Perhaps Sanji will jump in, or maybe Frankie, who seemed to be looking for Zoro, will come to his aid. Or maybe it'll be Nami, Chopper, or some other crew member. What led to the appearance of the death god? In chapter 1038, after taking the Mink tribe's medicine, it was hinted that Zoro would face double the damage later on. This means the accumulated damage might have reached a point where he couldn't move. Or perhaps, due to influences from swords like Enma or others, he faced a mental strain, leading him to see the death god. These are some theories to consider. First off, during the fight with the high-ranking officer, King, there were intriguing scenes related to Enma, Zoro's sword. In the midst of the battle, as Zoro lay down, a smoky substance suddenly emitted from Enma, and furthermore, Zoro heard a sound like a shamisen in his ear. Immediately after, an aura or spirit energy burst from Enma, causing it to go berserk. Zoro then suppressed it with his own willpower, stating, "Don't do anything selfish." It was as if the sword possessed its own consciousness. In the following chapter 1033, Kozuki Kozaburo made a reference to Enma, saying, "The blade I crafted in my youth was my greatest creation. I named that renowned blade after the king of hell." Remembering this, Zoro mentioned the Hell King Enma. Now, what's intriguing is the use of the term king rather than god. In their conversation, King even asked Zoro if he aspired to become a king. This could be taken to suggest that Zoro was exhibiting the color of the Supreme King Haki-like abilities. Aware of this, after the conclusion of his fight with King, Zoro remarked, "Let's be kings of hell." Adding to this, let's rewind to volume 26, chapter 245. The existence of God was a particular feature in the Skypiea arc, and Zoro stated, "Sorry, but I've never prayed to a god." And later, during his fight with Om, "I'll never pray to a god in my life," he assured. This led to theorize a contrast within the One Piece world between heaven and God and hell and king. From Zoro's past comments, it's hard to imagine him becoming or relying on a god. If so, his character might be built upon the concept of hell, not as a god but as a king. This can be further supported by the Thriller Bark arc in Volume 50, Chapter 485. When Bartholomew Kuma appeared and Zoro offered himself as a substitute for Luffy, Kuma stated, "Trust in what I'm about to do. I keep my promises. In exchange, I'll show you hell." Kuma then transferred all of Luffy's fatigue and damage to Zoro, leading to that iconic scene where Zoro declared, "Nothing happened." Many might relate Zoro's current situation in Onigashima to that near-death experience in Thriller Bark. Considering what Kozaburo and Kuma have said, if the concept of hell exists in this world and within it resides a king named Enma, then Zoro might undergo a mental journey through hell. Additionally, in Wano, there's a deity known as Sword God, namely Ryuma. You might wonder, will Zoro become a god like Ryuma? Will he wield power as the Sword King? But I believe Zoro has to surpass Ryuma as the story progresses. Therefore, in order to surpass Ryuma, he might need a title other than God, and that's where the term king comes into play. This wraps up the foreshadowing regarding Zoro's possible journey through hell. At last, the lifeline called Promises. Throughout his journey, Zoro has made many promises with various individuals and has staked his life on fulfilling them. It's his sheer determination, the resolve that it's better to die than break a promise, that's propelled him forward. So it's conceivable that what might save him from this crisis is some kind of promise. Looking back at some of the major promises he's made, the first and foremost is with Luffy. Luffy aims to become the Pirate King, while Zoro, his crewmate, aims to become the greatest swordsman. With that pact, they embarked on their journey. Then, after his loss to Mihawk, Zoro made another vow. He'd never lose again until he defeated Mihawk to become the greatest swordsman. He also made a promise with Kuina, as depicted in the first volume. They vowed that either you or I will become the world's greatest swordsman. But tragically, Kuina passed away. With her dream in his heart, Zoro inherited the sword Wado Ichimonji, Moreover, when he encountered the cursed blade Sandai Kitetsu, there was a kind of bet. Zoro said, "If I come out of this unscathed, I'm taking this blade." Fair and square, he tested it, overcame the curse, and won. It felt like a contract was formed between Zoro and Sendai Kitetsu right there. "If you want my arm, take it, but if I win, I'm using you," Zoro said. This pact he made with the Sendai Kitetsu was fulfilled, which might explain why Zoro can wield the Kitetsu now, don't you think? Assuming Zoro forms individual promises with each of his swords, he might forge a pact with Enma. During battles, it seemed like there wasn't a solid bond or agreement between Zoro and Enma. Zoro had to command, "Listen to me," to control Enma's rampage. Considering how Odin effortlessly wielded Enma as if it were an extension of himself, Zoro might need to form a deeper bond with the blade. So, starting from his promise with Kuina, this keyword promise that's so integral to Zoro might be the key to saving him from this predicament. Lastly, what kind of storyline or plot twist will lead to Zoro's salvation? That's something we should keep our eyes on. So, we've delved deep into Zoro's fate today. What'd you all think? That's all for today. This channel posts summaries, explanations, and ranking videos related to One Piece. If you like One Piece, we would be happy if you could support us by subscribing to our channel and commenting. Thank you for watching till the end. We'll see you in the next video.